Are
All
you,
right,
are you recording now?
I am.
Awesome. We decided that we're going to start greeting everyone before we start doing these videos instead of jumping right in. So, hi, everybody. My name is Yana Kasperczak, as you might already know by now. And I am a certified professional core energy life coach with more titles coming. It's a mouthful, so I got to figure out how to shorten it. And Rachel, you want to introduce yourself quickly?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Goldberg, and I am also a certified professional coach. And I focus mostly on spiritual wellness. So you can consider me a spiritual wellness coach.
I love that. So, what would you like to chat about? Because I know we didn't fully decide on, but last week we started talking about the law of being in the ELI, and I remember you saying that let's keep carry it over for next week.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep talking about that. I I love the both of them, the ELI and the law of being. So um, I think that's a great topic, and yeah, maybe we just get started with explaining what first, maybe what the ELI is, and
Mm-hmm.
then from there. So yeah, the ELI is an assessment, and it's an attitudinal assessment. So we're used to personality assessments like the Myers Briggs, um, and those are helpful because personalities are pretty much who we are. They don't change much. However, attitudes have enormous potential for change. So the ELI assessment, I think is it 80 questions? Yeah, I think it's 80
I think so.
questions. Um, takes about 20 minutes, and what you get in your results is uh, it's basically like an X-ray of your attitude, and that's important because the attitude that we have in our heads dictates how we feel, and how we feel dictates how we show up in the world and present ourselves and interact with others.
It totally does because if anyone will everyone will understand this example when um, we are irritated when something happened in our life. For example, you're walking down the street and you trip over something, you fall on your face, and you stand up and you feel guilty and ashamed of what might have happened. And then that will affect the next conversation you're going to have with a person.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you practice falling on your face and getting up gracefully and not feeling and experiencing all those negative feelings and emotions, then it wouldn't affect the next conversation. But most of us don't have the tools or the knowledge on how to manage the inner world so it does not take over our external world. And how we do anything is how we do everything, which means that if something happens in our life and we get angry and upset, and we can either revert to feeling victimized and keeping it in, or we can get angry about it and take it out on the next person, or even worst thing to do is get angry and take it out on yourself internally without expressing it onto anyone else, right? So, and that's level two, and level one showing up. And whether you do it externally or internally, the effect is the same.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah, another example of the victim mentality. Um, when I was healing PTSD from a previous relationship, I could see myself. It was almost like, I was aware of how I was showing up and how I was carrying myself, but I couldn't change it at the time. Um, and so I was noticing, even just being around people, I would kind of, like, I noticed it in my posture. I would kind of try to hide. If I went into my parents' kitchen and my dad was in there, I felt like unworthy of taking up space in the kitchen. Um, and so, and hiding like that actually influenced the other people around me to also treat me as though I'm not worthy of taking up space. So, after going through a healing process, which took some time, I was able to then show up with my shoulders back, head held high, and greet people in the morning and say hi, and I noticed the energies around me, people opening up a bit more, um, receiving smiles instead of being disregarded, and so just witnessing that, I consider those miracles, and it really was a, it took a conscious choice. I'm so fortunate in that I had a bit of background working with energy leadership, working with my coach before entering a relationship with someone who was psychologically abusive. So, um, when I was recovering, I could see myself at level one, and then finally got to the point where I was like, you need to make a choice. Nothing, because I kept, like, I kept wanting someone to save me. I kept wanting someone to see me in the struggle and change the world around me for me.
Mhm.
And I, while I also have that knowledge base that we influence the world around us, it's up to us to change our circumstances and our situations. So I finally got to that point where I was looking at myself and I was like, why don't you just suck it up? Nothing's gonna change. You're, as long as you're acting like a victim, everything's gonna keep going the way it's going. So why don't you suck it up? Suck up your self righteousness, and choose level five. And so level five, Yana and I talk about it a lot.
I love it.
Level five. um, it's so good. But it's
It
just,
has its faults, I'm not gonna lie.
what's that?
It has its faults, I'm not gonna lie. No level is a perfect level. There's advantages and disadvantages. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's also. I'm so glad you brought that up because go doing the ELI debrief can trigger some self judgment when we're seeing how much level one and level two we use. But when we recognize that each level of energy has its advantages and disadvantages, it becomes easier to accept. Of course, we were using level one in these situations because it has advantages, um, and of course, uh, levels six and seven are sometimes scary to embody around other people because they have their disadvantages, such as being perceived as being out of touch and too idealistic.
mhm.
So it's really to keep that in mind. Every level of energy has advantages and disadvantages, and when we have that knowledge base, then we can witness ourselves without judgment and just see where we are.
Yeah, and then choose if we want to stay there or move up or down. There's no right or wrong answer. Everyone has a choice. And actually, it's not one choice, it's many choices.
Mm-hmm.
And just because somebody is at level five does not mean they need to go to level four or level six. They can jump anywhere you want to once you're aware of them and understand them and have practiced being at each and every level. Because once we are familiar with them, not only up here, but really like in here, like I always say, on a cellular level, when we understand what each level is, we can switch like this, right? And jump to the level that we want to be at in this current time. I've jumped to level ones because it works. And this is where I needed to be in order to be able to understand what the other person is experiencing and what I am experiencing, right? Because if, for a perfect example, and I'm sure you've used this yourself, when we're in a session with a client, if a client is at level one, I cannot be at level 6 or at level 5 because in that time, in that moment where they are, they simply cannot even understand, right? Even if they've been there before, it still takes a little bit of time to move, right? Sometimes they need to get a little angry. That might work. Or sometimes they need to rationalize through it and realize, oh, it's not really working. Okay, so then what is? And then, and we as coaches, we like chameleons in a way, putting on these different colors, the 7 colors, 7 levels, and helping and meeting the client where they are at without attachment, judgment, or becoming part of that story.
That's the key. Yeah, we as coaches, we really need to stay expanded beyond the story. And that can be sort of difficult for sensitive empaths who just want to help everyone. It's so important to separate ourselves from the emotional dramas of others because that's their journeys, and that could be one of the biggest challenges coaching is to default to our uh, previous settings of wanting to help and wanting to show compassion and sympathy and empathy when sometimes what our clients will mostly what our clients really need is objectivity and kind of a I mean this is we say it a lot nicer than this but essentially yeah so that happened, what do you want to do about it, or that's how it is, what do you want to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
So that we don't spend too much time within the emotional dramas. I also really love what you said about feeling it on a cellular level, and the something that really helps me to conceptualize that is, and if anybody's watching and would like to see what I'm talking about, let us know. It's the energetic self perception chart. So this chart is 3 concentric circles, and I love this chart because it really helps me personally, and and I think everyone who becomes more and more familiar with the 7 levels as we do this work to think of it as expansion and contraction. You know, so the most contracted is victim, and the most flame. And that makes sense because if you're so dense, not a lot of light can get in. And then as we expand, you know, the next level is anger. And at anger, it might not sound like there's a lot of light there, but at least there's choice. Whereas with shame and victim, it doesn't feel like there's a choice. So with anger, we actually have a choice and we're going to choose ourselves. And then we continue expanding from there. So I love the energetic self perception chart because it just helps to view it as more of an organism than a hierarchy. Because I know sometimes seeing an image of 7 levels, like one stacked on top of the other, it can make it seem like a hierarchy, and as though some levels are better than others. But no level of energy is better or worse than any other. It's just an option. And we have all these options because, well, one of the examples they use in coach training is if we are, let's say we're at level 7. So level 7 energy is the thought is of non-judgment. So the feeling there is absolute passion. So we're at level 7, we're absolutely passionate about all aspects of life, you know, washing the dishes, walking the dog, whatever it is. Um, so when we're at level 7, we don't all the time because we're not going to get it out of the way. We're going to believe, we're just going to accept that it's happening, and get hit by a car. So that's why I just really love thinking about it as expansion and contraction, because sometimes, like, if you think of an animal that is being threatened by another animal, it might recoil before making a decision, before making the decision to run or fight. And that's basically what levels 1 and 2 offer us. If we are actually in danger, then we have those 2 levels of energy available to us. However, we are, most of the time, we are not actually in danger. So those 2 levels of energy are being generalized in situations where they're actually not required or necessary and are limiting our options.
Yeah, but it is in our DNA, right? Like I'll give you one of examples that I had in one of my coaching sessions with a client. So she brought a topic to a session, and the topic was, I can't sleep. Like I can't sleep. I keep waking up early in the morning at 3 in the morning, and I can't sleep. And all I can think about is sleep, sleep, sleep. I just need sleep, right? Really like sleep deprived. And we got to talking, trying to understand where it's all coming from. And I love verbal processors, right? Just watching everything unfold and just her going through everything, like really going through everything. And in the end, realizing that it does happen, like it happens for a reason. And one of the things that we kind of uncovered might be is because she's going through a lot of spiritual healing, meditating and doing things like that. So I shared something with her that I went through, which was extremely similar to what she's going through, right? So of course, ask permission before doing that. So after I shared what I've gone through and my realization, she literally just woke up. Like she was no longer tired. She just like woke up and thought, wow, like for her that was it.
Wow.
And right, all the other things that she worked up to, it was helping her to understand why the sleep was important and what she was feeling and experiencing, why the thoughts, why going all these different directions and everything, right? So she worked through it and got herself to a place. And then for me, as you know, I'm quite intuitive. I don't like to brag, but I remembered for a split second that I was there, because this whole time I'm just listening and not really thinking about myself. And I remembered when I was there waking up at 3 in the morning. And I know some people are watching, they're like, tell me, what is it? So I'll tell you. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna hold the information off, but what it was for me, and I say for me because it was for me, I was still in a dark place, but healing through everything, meditating all the time, every day, trying to connect to my spirit guides, the guardian angels, anything that can. At that time, I was just trying to like find anyone that can talk to me in the spiritual world, right? And I was able to see my guardian angels and my spirit guides, and then I started waking up at 3:11, 3:33 in the morning, 3:44, 3:55 in the morning. And I would wake up and all I would want to do is sleep. Why am I being awakened this early? I just want to sleep. I'm so tired. And then cried myself to sleep. Okay. The following morning when I wake up, I realized that during the day, everything is so loud that when I'm trying to connect with these spirit guides, they can't get through to me because it's way too loud. So they will come to me when they're able to. And it does happen between the hours of 3 and 5 in the morning. So instead of going in a negative direction and becoming a complete victim to the situation, to this experience, instead of embracing it, I realized I'm just going to wake up the next time and meditate and see what they want me to hear, what I need to hear.
Yeah.
Long story short, that's how Empathy Unicorn Academy started coming to me. Bits by like bits by bits and little pieces, because I took the time, and it just took one time for me. So one night I said, okay, fine, I'll listen to you. And after that, I could sleep right through the night peacefully.
Wow. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of people, especially who are being called right now to acknowledge and access their gifts and use their gifts to create something. Um, what I love about that, and just want to point out, is that the perception of the situation completely shifted. Like originally, it's lack of sleep, so that's coming from lack, level one. And then it completely shifted to empowerment and proactivity.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to use this time. I'm going to use this energy. And
And
so,
she did.
oh,
She
awesome!
also,
Yeah.
I was just sharing my story. I wasn't telling her what to do, just shared what I did, what worked for me, and just left it there. You take away whatever you want from the story, right? You do what you want to do. And she actually did then like basically did a meditation at night and went back to sleep after.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I just as you're telling the story, I was traveling through the experience of like, oh yeah, I think we've all had that experience of waking up, looking at the clock, and be like, oh, I just want to go back to sleep. When am I gonna go back to sleep? And like minutes keep passing, and then it's time to actually get up, and it feels shitty. It sucks. And so to be able to just shift that perception, like, whoa, I'm given this gift of time to connect on a deeper level, because what I've noticed about those hours, 3, 4 in the morning, woken up many times throughout my life at this hour, a lot of creative thoughts streaming through my head. And I finally got to that point where I've been like, all right, fuck it. I'm just going to get up and write. Clearly, something wants me to write. Like, once it came through in this, like, voice that apparently, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, it's Ernest Hemingway. Like reading to, like, telling me words, and I was like, okay, I'll just write it. So you never know. And I do think, part of what I think it is, for me, something that I noticed in college, I would write my papers after everyone else was asleep. Um, and I just needed that, because we are empaths. It's important
Mhm.
to pay attention to how aware we are of energy anywhere around us. Like, even, for example, you're in the basement of your house right now, but you're still aware that other people in your house are awake. Like, there's still that awareness.
Yeah.
So that's why, that's why it could be one of those times when everybody is asleep, and depending on our geographical location, most people are sleeping around the same time, because empaths are so sensitive to the cosmic energy. So we can feel the energy where we live, not just in our house, but our town and our states, our counties. So when everybody else is asleep, that could be one of those reasons that it just like floods through. It's like, wake up.
Yeah, and it's because we go through the day as a human being asking a lot of questions without even realizing we're always asking questions. And she had a lot of questions that she was asking. So, and I said, you might have been asking a lot of questions, as you said, and because you're asking questions during the day, it's too loud to hear the answers, right? When are you gonna hear them? You're not able to hear it through the day, and so you're being woken up one night, another night, not consecutively, but still, right? It still takes quite a bit in our psyche. And then another night, and because they just want to give you those answers, but you need to be at least semi awake to hear them. And the other thing, one of the reasons why I actually started talking about this topic, and I brought this up, is because we were talking about our cells, right? How we said understanding things on a cellular level. Brings me back to our DNA. How through our DNA, we have been passed stuff down generation after generation after generation. And back in the day, talking about this example, when it comes to sleep, people used to be tortured with like and being deprived of sleep, because that's torture. I felt like my second child was torturing me with not letting me sleep for the first like 2 weeks, because I slept for 6 hours in total for the first 2 weeks. So I thought he was torturing me, but again, of course not, right? But that kind of stuff, it passes in our DNA. And then once, and this is something that she also uncovered on her own, right? Through conversation and thought-provoking questions. I love that phrase. She really just started figuring out that this stuff could be just from her previous life, right? Because she also has done some connecting with previous lives. And anyways, I'm not gonna go into detail, but she understands previous lives, and she understands her other previous lives and how she basically departed, so to speak. And this might have been one of the previous experiences as well that got carried generation after generation through the DNA. And if anyone is experiencing like losing sleep and then going through, like for me, it almost felt like PTSD in a way, kind of like when I would wake up and I would have panic attack because I haven't slept and all I want to do is sleep and I'm so tired and exhausted. And again, just saying those things, I am this and I am that, I didn't even know at that time that I was creating that in myself, and it just got a little bit worse, and then better, and then a little bit worse and a little better until I started working through and figuring out really what's happening. And when you were talking about how the self-perception chart looks, how it's one circle and a bigger one and a bigger one, it made me think that it looks like a cell.
Yeah.
A cell, that they are all connected, that they are all one, just like we are. We are all connected as human beings. And once we start feeling disconnected is when quite often depression starts to set in, and anxiety and worry and fear and all the catabolic feelings and emotions, as I guess I would categorize it. But once we start rebuilding those connections in our life, whether it's with people, whether it is with animals, whether it is with nature, beautiful around you, by the way. I want to go sit in the backyard now. That's when we start to feel whole and wealthy, right? Everybody wants to be rich so they can feel wealthy and rich. But if when a person gets to that level and they have all that money can give them and they have no one to share it with, they're not going to feel the feelings and emotions that they were thought they were going to feel, because the wealth is not actually what all of us are after. We're after the connections and feeling accepted and understood by our tribes. Back in the day, people never worried about what they didn't have. They focused on what they did have, and that was their love of their family and tribe. And they always felt whole and connected. And then money.
They had faith that they, if they needed to make humans first made um, and a lot of lives. And we've got two options: either change our perception of the stress or change the situation. And
I think we just lost her for a second.
okay, I'm back.
I was like, I think we just lost her for a second.
I'll move closer to the house. So our did you catch what I was saying about what we do with in terms of stress?
No, nothing. It literally, we started talking, it started freezing.
Okay, cool. All right. So what Yana and I do is we help our clients to identify stress in their lives and then offer options. And the main options are either to change the perception of what we perceive to be stressful or to come up with a plan to change the situation. And often we have a lot of success in changing the perception of the stress itself to find a situation no longer stressful. And part of that is by acknowledging that the deeply embedded stress reactions, such as fight or flight, freeze and fawn, which can also be categorized as levels 1 and 2, they have attached to our DNA.
Yeah.
And have been passed down. So when we get real about what our ancestors, and early humans actually found stressful, it was leaving the cave and possibly facing a saber-toothed tiger. That's an appropriate use of fight or flight. Or, are we going to make a fire? A lot of times today, the way that that's been carried in our genes and our DNA is that we, when even standing up for our individual sense of self within a group of people, whether it's our family, work, friends, that can be so stressful because it hits that root cause of fear of separation from the tribe, because back, it is a primal fear, because back when we were living as a tribe, we depended on the tribe for survival. Now that's not the case. We can survive as individuals. So something that helps is if anyone is going through that, which is um, part of the awakening, and identifying and coming in tune with our spiritual gifts and our core values. Really, when we get really clear on our core values, we might start dissenting from the tribe a bit. So keeping in mind that rejection from the tribe, we're not actually under threat, and we actually have choices on how to navigate that kind of a situation, we can really start mitigating stress. Also, Yana, you were mentioning, wealth in nature, and that was actually something I was journaling about yesterday. I was sitting on my parents' diving board right over there, looking at the ground, and there's this herb, this food called sorrel, just growing. And I was like, look at that. I started tripping out. I was like, there's food literally where I just casually walk. Food just growing. Mother Nature's just growing food. And so the more we learn about Mother Nature and all she has to offer, like, I was sitting over there smelling a pine cone because it has terpenes. It has the pinene terpene, which is great for your bronchial system. And so just learning more about Mother Nature and connecting and seeing that there's food and medicine everywhere really helped us start on a cellular level internalizing that abundance and recognizing, you know what, we are sovereign beings. We are divinity incarnated. I mean, if this is not a planet made for gods, I don't know what is. It just grows food everywhere.
Mhm.
So I find that very helpful in accessing that abundance frequency.
Mhm. Yeah, just remember reminding ourselves that we are part of that nature.
Yeah.
Take shoes off.
Yeah, we are nature. So again, expand and contract with all of nature. All of nature expands and contracts. All of nature goes through cycles. So we as humans do as well.
Yeah, we do. We have winters within us ourselves. We're just not hibernating through them the way that we want to. Anyway, I know you got to go, and so do I. My husband got home, so I'm gonna go spend some time with him. I haven't seen him since Friday. Yeah.
Well, enjoy your time together.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching.
And I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway from this whole little discussion, whole little chat. One biggest takeaway. What was it?
Oh, I would love to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
please
my favorite part.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Much love.
Bye, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Rachel. Bye.